Hey everybody, how's it going today? So in this episode, I want to talk about good and bad. So with the good and bad, dark, evil, that kind of stuff, I don't necessarily quite believe in it because I believe each exists so that we can see the contrast of each. Because honestly, this is how I look at it. If I think I did something good, in my perspective, it's good. But who's to say in someone else's perspective, like the way they see what I did is bad? But I don't see it as bad, I see it as good. Not just that, but what if I see someone else as bad and what they're doing is bad, but yet they think what they're doing is good? And so who decides what's good or bad? What's that perspective based on? I mean, it gets super tough because as you get into things more and more, it really comes from what was the intention behind it. And that is when I feel things can become, was it from this place? Was it from that place? But again, when you get into people's stories and you start to understand where they're coming from, I learned this a lot based on just listening to people argue, or based on when someone was mad at someone and the other person was mad too, and listening to both their sides and how they were both right in their own way because they had a reason for how they were acting and it made sense. And I always wish that people could just, talk how they did to me to each other, because I feel like if they were able to do that, the other person would understand and it would make everything better. And so that also led me to start realizing how important communicating is, and communicating your side to the point where you feel the other person hopefully understands where you're coming from. But that one is also hard because it's how we receive things as well. So about the good and bad, I don't necessarily believe in a good and bad. I know that it does exist, but I also feel it doesn't exist because it's just, when you look at the whole picture, the whole story, it just becomes the whole, and it's then judging from that. It's deciding what you feel about that whole together, and that's what I believe all of life is about. So for me, I don't believe in just dark and light being good and bad, because it's one and the same. You have the dark so you can see the light, and you have the light so you can see the dark, and just knowing that they both exist, and then kind of combining them and existing in harmony. And that is what I feel is the best way to approach everything. And so with the good and bad, I don't judge people based on, oh, that's a good thing, they did a bad thing, or that's a bad thing and they did a good thing. It's more just like, what is it? What is this behind it? And you look further into it and you pass those judgments of good and bad and try to come up with the reasoning, intention behind it. And from there, why possibly did that person do it that way? And it's when we go into the depths and try to understand others, that's also when more compassion comes in to try to get the overall feel of it all. And it kind of just changes everything and your outlook on life. You're no longer just like judging based on these things of surface things. It's going past all of that and looking through it and trying to come up with, what is all of this possibly. And then it kind of just allows for space for a person to, just act or react how they do and hopefully grow and learn from them. Hey everybody, in this one I just wanted to do a quick talk about how I don't quite believe in the words good, bad, right, wrong, dark, light, I don't, because in truth it depends what perspective you're coming to that point on. Meaning, like, let's say I'm good and I think something's bad. But who's to say that that thing that I think is bad is not thinking itself is good? And so they view themselves as good and what I'm viewing as bad. And see, that depends on where you see things. And that's the same thing for, like good and evil and dark and light and right and wrong, is what perspective are you seeing it from? When you start to see things from all perspectives, you start to see that each side has value to why it believes what it does. And it does. It's just what you were raised in, what you're brought up in, your experiences, everything experiences it, and it decides what it does based on those experiences. So who are we to judge what is good, what is bad, what is right, what is wrong, when we're not sure from what perspective, each came to that point at? So yes, I do believe in those words, sure. I do believe, there is harm that we can cause. And is that a bad thing? It's possible, but can it lead to good things? It can. There's just so much in that. And again, at what perspective you came to it at. So they exist, both exist, and that's all that matters. Both exist, middle answer. Love you all. Bye.